Hello, my name is Alex Powell. I'm a high school teacher at Ben Lomond High School in Ogden, Utah. I teach several classes this year. It's my second year of teaching. I teach world civilizations, I teach current events, and AVID 10 and 11. In this video, I'm going to be outlining my educational philosophy. That includes the things that I think education should do, along with theoretical framework that supports those assertions. So according to the textbook, Integrating Educational Technology into Teaching, there are two perspectives on how we should approach teaching and learning in the classroom. The first is the directed instruction founded in an objective psychological theory. Under this, the focus really is on basic skills, on lower levels of Bloom's taxonomy, and the underlying idea here is that knowledge exists outside of the mind, and it's thus the job of the teacher to transmit knowledge to students. So under this model, learning is primarily an independent endeavor. The other perspective is inquiry-based learning, which is founded in a constructivist psychological theory. In this idea, humans construct knowledge, and knowledge is created based on prior experiences and learning experiences. Under this theory, students focus more on innovation, on critical thinking skills, and on higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy. In my opinion, the focus should be placed more on inquiry-based learning as opposed to directed instruction, because this creates a more flexible model of learning, and it really just promotes the development of the whole student, and not just the skills being transmitted, but how students can use those skills. Now, based on this theoretical background, I think that there are things that I apply to my teaching, or foundational beliefs that I apply to my teaching that are based on this. The first one of these is that education should be valuable. And what I mean by that is that we need to use directed instruction for some things like foundational skills and knowledge. But the bulk of our teaching and learning should be focused on the higher levels of thinking. So education should be valuable because we're not just teaching students skills and knowledge, we're teaching them how to apply them in different contexts and how to really critically think. And I think this really develops the whole learner, the whole child, and really prepares them for college, community, and career in a 21st century world. The next thing I believe is that education should be challenging, and it should result in growth of student learning. And again, I'm going to go back to this idea that directed instruction, while it can be challenging, doesn't necessarily result in the growth that inquiry-based teaching and learning does. Oftentimes this directed instruction is out of context, where students might use this knowledge and skills when they move on from school. So when we're asking students to use this information in novel contexts, they're really challenged to the best of their abilities, and then those are skills and dispositions that they can take with them outside of school. So when we push beyond this directed model of teaching and learning, it really challenges students in the greatest way. Another one of the foundational beliefs that I hold about education is that it should be empowering to students. And to go back to this directed instruction versus inquiry-based teaching and learning, when we teach things with this directed instruction model and they're out of context, students don't necessarily see where they fit into that whole picture of what they're learning. But when we take what they're learning and relate it to them and their lives and skills and knowledge that they need to develop and that will be valuable to them, that becomes empowering to the student, because they can see how they fit in the picture and see that they have a place in this model of teaching. Another thing that I believe about education is that it needs to be culturally relevant to really reach students. In the United States today, we have an increasingly racially diverse and ethnically diverse country, and where I teach a diverse population as well. So I think if we stuck with this directed instruction model in which there is one knowledge that all students need to take away, I think that we're ignoring someone else's story. For example, I teach history, and if I were only to focus on the history of European descendants, then I wouldn't be reaching all of my students, because not all of them are of European descent. So really valuing and giving a voice to students of all backgrounds with all beliefs, I think is a great way to pull in students and be culturally relevant. So all of these ideas inform how we integrate educational technology into our classrooms, because with these beliefs that education is valuable, it's challenging, it's empowering, and it's culturally relevant, with all of those ideas in mind, it's impossible for those things to happen in the classroom without an inquiry-based model. And technology really allows us to transform what we're doing in our classrooms and what we're asking our students to do with technology. So according to the textbook, Integrating Educational Technology into Education, there are 4 things that an inquiry-based model does. It's creative problem solving, the transfer of knowledge into different contexts, collaboration skills, particularly in groups, and multiple intelligences and intelligence that are distributed into multiple different contexts. So with all of those things in mind, it's really important that we move our classrooms beyond a directed instruction model, particularly as it pertains to the use of ed tech, because we can't just be focusing on this directed instruction model, because we're not going to make our education really transformative and valuable for our students. So with all of these things in mind, it's really important that we use technology to really foster student inquiry.